Hello and welcome to the commentary box. Yes, we are back for our first main football podcast of the season, and it's so good to be back. I am Sam Turner, and if you didn't know, the commentary box is a football podcast specialising in specifically the Premier League, but we also here at the commentary box kind of like to look at football in general across the world, so don't think it's all going to be about the Premier League, but do be warned, it slightly is all about the Premier League most of the time. But yes, as normal today, you have me, but sadly Jake is not with us, and here is a short video to explain why.
Hello, unfortunately I'm unable to be in this main podcast this week, so it's going to be mainly Sam conducting it because I am sitting on a sunbed in Tenerife for 2 weeks. That pretty much sums it up, but yeah, I just thought I'd make this to let you guys know, and Sam, yeah, continue.
So yes, Jake is on holiday, so I have been given the reins as such in this podcast, and today, as I said earlier, we'll be going through some Premier League predictions. And we did ask on Twitter and our other social medias, which you can find on the screen now. If you look, we can Instagram, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes. We put stuff out saying we would like you to be involved in our podcast more. And we did say that you can give your opinions on your club. A few people did kind of send in their videos of themselves giving their opinions, so today we'll be sharing a few of those videos, so that's all good. And if you did miss that the last time, of course there'll be plenty more opportunities to get your opinions on this podcast. But yes, let's get straight into it. So I will be going in alphabetical order, kind of giving my opinions on each Premier League team's upcoming season and how I think they will finish. And if there was a club that someone had sent in their opinions to, I'll use that instead of my opinions, and I'll just kind of briefly sum up my opinions of the club. But yeah, and I'll also give a prediction of where I think they will finish. Jake has also given a prediction to where the said club is finished, and this should be on the screen at the end of the video, kind of summarising it. But yeah, I'll tell our predictions as well throughout that. So we start with Arsenal. So with Arsenal, we actually have someone who expressed their opinions to us on Arsenal's upcoming season, and here it is.
Hey guys, I'm Johnny, a friend of Sam and Jake, and I've been kindly asked to give my opinions on Arsenal's upcoming season. First of all, the appointment of Unai Emery. I feel like it is a very good one. Obviously, we have missed out on some top managers in recent years. Jurgen Klopp, for example, we could have had Pep Guardiola, could have had Jose Mourinho of all people. But yeah, you've seen what Jurgen Klopp has done with Liverpool, taking them to 2 European finals. But yeah, I feel like Unai Emery has brought success wherever he's gone. For example, at Sevilla, winning 3 Europa Leagues in a row, which is a huge achievement. But I feel like the Champions League might be a bit of an issue for him, because obviously he didn't win it at PSG, and obviously if you win Europa League 3 years in a row, you're obviously getting knocked out at some point. So, yeah, that might be a bit of an issue, but obviously we're in the Europa League next season, so hopefully he can bring some success there. The new signings, we've got Torreira, Socrates, Guendouzi and Leno. Very happy with those. Guendouzi looks very calm on the ball. Socrates is obviously quite a solid defender. But Leno has some experience in the top league as well, in the Bundesliga. And Torreira is quite a good signing that Arsenal have required in recent years. A nice central defensive midfielder. Sit in front of the back four, pass it around, intercept. Should be quite good. The league position, I think we're going to come 5th. If we avoid injuries, I think we can finish 4th. So hopefully Aubameyang and Lacazette and Ozil can do bits up top, and then defensively, as long as we don't get any injuries, I think that we will finish about 5th, maybe 4th. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Johnny, for that. basically, I would tend to agree with you, Johnny. I think, though, if Aubameyang and Lacazette, who got 24 goals between them last season, can form some sort of partnership with potentially Ozil behind them, I actually think that they'll do better than you have said, Johnny. I think that they will finish in third position. So, yeah, I think Unai Emery could be the man to build Arsenal into a title challenger again, really. So that's my opinions on Arsenal. So the next team is Bournemouth, who finished 12th last season. I initially thought that they would struggle. However, since the signing of the Colombian international who was a star at the World Cup, Jefferson Lerma, I have somewhat changed my mind on Bournemouth, and I think they can build on a fairly good season last season, and I think I don't know if they can build, but they'll be a bit more solid. But still, I think they'll finish in 14th, which is 2 places below last season. But that's purely because I think teams around them are getting better, not because they're getting any worse. And just a quick note on Bournemouth, I still don't know how Eddie Howe has not been head-hunted by any top team. I guess none of the jobs have come around that he might be interested in. But yeah, I think Eddie Howe will be leaving Bournemouth in the next few seasons, and I can see him going to a top club. On to Brighton and Hove Albion, who finished 15th last time out. I think Chris Hughton will again guide the Seagulls to safety. I went to see them last season against Swansea, as you know, I'm a Swansea fan, and we were absolutely hammered. But yeah, Brighton, they're a Premier League club through and through. Got the stadium, got the players, got the chairman, got the manager. It's just a great story to see down in Brighton. I think they're going to be solid next season. They've made a few good signings, such as Jahan Bach, another World Cup star and he was from Iran. And I think the signing of Locadia last season and Ryan last season, I think these are players that are Premier League players and will kind of solidify Brighton in the Premier League, and Chris Hughton obviously is doing a wonderful job with his kind of very structured tactics, but very effective tactics, and therefore I think Brighton will stay up this season, and they'll finish in 16th. Now on to Burnley, who had a stunning season last time out. I'm going to keep on saying last time out. And they finished 7th, winning themselves a Europa League place. Now, off the bat, I don't think they will do as well this season. They did so well last season, and it's going to be really hard to match it or better it. I think with the European football also on their doorstep and potentially getting to the group stage if they beat Limaspor, the Turkish side, I think it could be a bit too much for them because they do lack in depth in some places. I know they've signed Gibson now and Hart to fill in some roles, but I do think they lack in depth, sadly, and for that reason I think if they do get into the group stage of the Europa League, they won't do as well. But Dyche, what a manager, he'll guide them to safety and they'll be completely safe no matter what, and I have them down to finish in 10th. On to Cardiff. Now, this is a bit of a contentious subject of mine. Of course, I said earlier I'm a Swansea fan, so I am not being biased at all. Okay, I've tried not to be, but for Cardiff fans, I don't think this is going to be the best of seasons for you. I know you were very good in the Championship, but I just can't see you doing a lot this time round. I think maybe if you go down and come back up again, you might do well, but not this season. I think the transfers wise, I know you brought in a few players like Bobby Reed from Bristol City and Josh Murphy, but these are players that are good Championship players, but they might take a while to get used to the Premier League, and that's something you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time to get used to it. And already Cardiff aren't a side with a lot of Premier League experience. I know Warnock has managed in the Premier League before, but not, I don't think ever a full season really. And players-wise, the only players I can think of that have played in the Premier League are Junior Hoylett, the Canadian winger, and what's his name, Aaron Gunnarsson. So I think experience-wise and kind of ability-wise, I think Cardiff won't do well this season. I've got them down for 20th, so they'll be relegated, I think. On to Chelsea now. Chelsea finished 5th under Conte last season and they did win the FA Cup. However, I see this again as a season to build after Conte's left and the Sarrification begins, as I've heard on different media outlets. Of course, Sarri, a manager with good pedigree from his time at Napoli, guiding them to a second place finish in the Serie A, only losing out to Juventus narrowly to the Scudetto. He plays a very attacking-minded game and kind of style, and I think that would suit Chelsea down to the ground. I love seeing that there's still going to be an Italian manager in the Premier League, but, however, I think this is a season to build for Chelsea. I don't think they'll be brilliant, but I think this will be a season where Sarri will be able to put his influence on the team and get them playing the way he wants them to. I was lucky enough to already see them this season at the Community Shield, and you can see my reaction to that and down in the description below. I've made a video on it. But I think the players they have aren't really Sarri players. I know they brought in Jorginho, which I'm really excited to see, but Fabregas and Pedro and Morata, they are really kind of... I don't know, if they don't get their act together, I can see them being a hindrance to Chelsea and Sarri, because I saw on Twitter after the Community Shield that Chelsea fans were absolutely slating these three players and they weren't good enough to wear the shirt for Chelsea, and I would actually tend to agree. So unless Sarri can change that and get more out of these players, I think it's going to be a okay season for Chelsea, and that is why I have them down to finish in 5th again this time round. Then on to Crystal Palace, who haven't been really making a lot of news in the build-up to the Premier League season. They did finish 11th last season, and Hodgson did guide them to safety in the end from a disastrous opening few games under Frank de Boer. I think Hodgson can actually turn Crystal Palace into a bit of a Fulham when he was at Fulham. Of course, Fulham got to the Europa League, and I think Crystal Palace, if they stick with Hodgson, can go quite far. They've made a very interesting signing in the free transfer of Maximilian Meyer, who was previously contracted to Schalke. I think he's a really exciting prospect. Only, I think, early 20s, and I think that's a great coup for Crystal Palace. It'll be really cool to see how he does and how he fits in the team. But yeah, Crystal Palace, good team all round, got some still really good talents to boast. So that's why I think they will finish actually above Burnley, as I said earlier, who will finish in 10th, and they will finish in 9th. I know, a bit surprising, that one. Now on to Everton. They finally got their man in Silva, but I don't think he's actually the right man for the job. I know he's got a good record at Watford when he didn't have his head turned and he almost kept Hull up, but I think the whole palaver surrounding the whole situation has kind of got Silva overrated as a manager, and I see him... I think he might be the first one to get sacked this season. Not because he's a bad manager, but because everyone's hyping him up, and if Everton don't do well, I think he'll be the first one to leave. But yeah, I don't think Everton will do this well this season. The only signing of note is Lucas Digne, and they didn't do well last season. They only finished 8th, and it wasn't exciting football they played. So for that reason, I think they will finish in 12th. Yes, a bit shocking that, but I think the club really need to kick up the backside as such and to get their kind of stuff in shape, really. Which is a shame for players like Keane and Pickford, but I just don't see them doing well this time out. So on to Fulham, who I was lucky enough to go see clinch promotion in the playoff final at Wembley. Now, this is their team I really, really love. I've been to Craven Cottage a few times because of friends we know who are Fulham fans, and I've seen Swansea beat them 3 times. But yeah, I've also seen them play like Peterborough in the Carling Cup. But they're a team that are close to my heart, and I like to watch. And I'm really excited about this season. Can I just name a few names they've got? Mitrovic, Jean-Michel Sherry, Chambers, Mawson, Fabry, Tom Kearney, Ryan Sessegnon. Yeah, that is a great squad, and you know what? That will be the first team I pick on Football Manager, I think, because that is so exciting! So exciting! Jovanovic has got Fulham playing so attractively, and I think they will really, really cause an upset in this season of the Premier League. And I think with their 50 million plus spend this transfer window, they will finish in 7th position. Yeah. You heard it here first. You might think I'm actually a bit mad, but I really like Fulham this year. Anyways, can't talk about Fulham all the time. Next team is Huddersfield. David Wagner did so well to keep them up last season. I'm a bit spiteful of them because if they hadn't have drawn to Chelsea, it might have meant that we would have been more motivated to beat Stoke as Swansea. But, oh, never mind. They did brilliantly to stay up, but I don't think this is a team that can stay up next this season. I think they have brought in a load of unknown players from Europe, and because they're unknown, it's hard to predict where they'll finish. So sadly, I have predicted them to finish in 18th position. Leicester. On to Leicester now. A team in the last few seasons after their Premier League victory who have been in a bit of limbo land and kind of not doing badly, but still trying to improve their status as a Premier League club. They've got Puel in charge, who I think is actually a decent manager and was unlucky to be sacked from Southampton. They still have the likes of Vardy and Morgan and Schmeichel in their team. So for that reason, I think they can do well, but they have lost players such as Mahrez and might be losing players such as Maguire. And for that reason, I think what could have been a brilliant season for Leicester might just turn into just an average one. Nothing to be squandered over, though. And for that reason, I think they will be finishing in 11th. So, on to Liverpool. We do actually have an opinion from one of our listeners. However, they did not want to be recorded as such, so they just typed us their opinions. The name is Luke, and he thinks Liverpool will finish in 2nd this year, saying that Manchester City are just too powerful, especially with their new signings. Just can't see us catching them. However, we strengthened in areas where we were weak. Fabinho is a great defensive midfield. Haven't seen much of him yet, but I also have seen he is promising. Alisson is going to be phenomenal. Anything is an upgrade on what we had, though. Shaqiri is a quality backup, proven Premier League player, and looking forward to him maybe playing centrally. If we can't sign a number 10, Naby Keita is going to rock the Premier League and allow our front three to score freely, again with Salah scoring 40 plus again this season. So Luke seems pretty confident that Liverpool will do well this season, and I would completely agree with everything he says. However, I'm not sure if Mo Salah is going to hit 40. He will definitely hit 30, but I'm not sure he'll hit 40 this year because he's had a long year, and of course with the injury, etc. But he will still be a magnificent player, and I agree with Luke in saying that they will be finishing 2nd. So on to Manchester City now. 1st. Yep, that's what I think. I saw them in the Community Shield, and they were brilliant. Yes, I think you can't actually quite estimate their brilliance until you see them live and a full match. Not necessarily in person, but it helps maybe to be in person because they are absolutely unstoppable. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I went to the Community Shield, which you can check down below, my reaction. And I saw Manchester City absolutely destroy Chelsea. And they just have a way of playing under Guardiola that stops teams from playing, almost. It's almost, they're debilitating to other teams. And they play such great football. With the signing of Mahrez, I think that's just a decent backup player. He's going to be a decent backup player, actually. Because I think the same team as last year can just go on and do the same again. Now, does that mean they're going to have a good Champions League run? I'm not sure. But I can't look past them as champions, to be honest. And that's not because anyone else, every other team aren't improving. It's just because Manchester City were so far ahead of everyone else, it's going to take a long time for them to catch up. And that's why I put them as first, really. Now on to Man United. We were going to have the opinions of a Man United fan, but sadly things didn't quite work out for this week, but we will have his opinion shown on next week's podcast, so don't you worry, but I will just have to share mine instead. I hope you're not getting annoyed at my opinions, but yeah, Man United, I think, they're a good side, you can't doubt that. They've got great players such as Pogba, Lindelof, De Gea, Jones, Young, Rashford, Rojo. You see, the list just goes on. But I think, for some reason, under Mourinho, and this is nothing against Mourinho at all, he's just not getting the best out of them, and he doesn't look happy anymore, Mourinho, and I know that's harsh. And I wish Mourinho and Manchester United all the best this season, but I just don't think at the moment it's going to work. I mean, getting Fred in may be better because Fred acts as a kind of a defensive midfielder who can take the weight off of Pogba's shoulders as such, so he doesn't have to do a lot of defensive work, and just feed the ball to Pogba, and hopefully we'll see a Pogba like we did in France, with France in the World Cup. So hopefully that's a good sign for Man United, but I still don't think that'll be enough, and for that reason I have them down as finishing 6th in the table. So next on to Newcastle United. Under Benitez they managed to finish 10th last season, but they still won't be getting a lot of spending money this season, and they've only brought in a few players like Key and Rondon and Muto. Not star signings, but decent Premier League signings. But are they going to be enough to progress Newcastle? And is it fair on Benitez, really? I really would like to see Newcastle do well with Benitez, and I really hope they do. But with the signings they've been making, they're not making progress. They're just static again, like they were when they were back in the Premier League before they got relegated, and it's not good to see, especially with a manager like Benitez at the helm. And that for that reason of not lack of spending, I still think Benitez will get the best of the players, but I can only see them finishing in 15th. Now on to Southampton. Mark Hughes is not the right person for that job. A bit like Lambert wasn't the person for the job at Stoke, I think Hughes was a panic manager signing, and I think it will turn out to be the end of Southampton's Premier League run this season. They were so good a few years ago when they finished 5th under Pochettino, but I can't see them doing that again for the time being, and I think they will be relegated because they have become complacent, as did Swansea and as did Sunderland. And I think because of this complacency, I can see them going down, and that's why I have got them to finish 19th. Now, please show me information if you think Southampton won't, but for me, I just can only see them going down. So that makes up my relegation spaces already, with Huddersfield, Cardiff and Southampton going down. So on to Tottenham, who finished 3rd last time out and still haven't got a trophy under Pochettino yet. And with their no signings so far, I am slightly worried for them because they've got such a good side, but they need depth and they need quality around the team, and they sometimes don't have that, and they don't have players to bring off the bench necessarily. But I still think they won't do bad next season because, of course, Pochettino is a great manager and they have the likes of Kane, Dele Alli, Eriksen, to name just a few. And with Trippier probably going to be filling in a role at Tottenham's fullback this season fully, I think they will do well across the board and maybe win a trophy. But Premier League-wise, with lots of players coming back from the World Cup, and lots of those players being very, very key players, I think it might be a slow start in the Premier League. And for that reason, I have them down to finish in 4th. Now, Watford, another interesting case, a bit like Southampton for me. The owners there have been, the Pozzo family have been swapping and changing managers so often with Silva and what's his name, Mazzari, and even before that in the Championship, Enrique Flores in the Premier League again. And I think that's going to catch up with them because they all did reasonably good jobs, but they weren't allowed time to build. I mean, is that going to be sustaining for Watford? And I don't think so. I think Gracia hopefully will get the time, and he's made a good signing, De La Feo. And I think they'll have just enough in their tank to survive this Premier League season, but only just, and I have them down to finish in 17th. As for West Ham, a very exciting team as well, like Fulham and Wolves, which we'll be talking about just in a jiffy, with the signings of Yarmolenko and Fabianski. Love Fabianski, and he's going to do so well at West Ham. I've already said Yarmolenko, but also like Anderson, who is one of the most highly rated Brazilian midfielders in Europe at the moment. I think they could be really exciting. Of course, they've got Pellegrini as manager as well. And I think if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be really happy that the owners are finally putting their money where the mouth is and actually look like improving the West Ham, and I think they will go far this season. I don't know if it's going to be their breakthrough season, but I do think they will do really, really, really well, and hopefully the Olympic Stadium will start to become more of a home for West Ham fans, and for that reason I have them finishing in 8th, just behind London rivals Fulham. Well, not London rivals, but London rivals-ish Fulham. Now on to the last team to kind of preview, and that is Wolves. Of course, first in the Championship last season, an absolute unstoppable force under Nuno, and of course with the influence of the top European football agent Jorge Mendes. They're going to be good this season, but I can actually see them struggling just a tiny bit. I know they're splashing the cash with João Moutinho and Rui Patricio, but I think these players might just take a while to get used to Premier League life a tiny bit. I don't think they'll get relegated, and I think they'll have a good season because, of course, they were unstoppable in the Championship last season. They're almost paying to stay in a way, aren't they? With their kind of the signings, but I don't have a problem with that really. But yeah, I think they'll finish in 13th this season. So yeah, there is my preview and predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. Of course, European leagues will be kicking off after the Premier League season, and we will, of course, will be doing a bit about the Championship and other leagues. But of course, our main focus is the Premier League, and that's kind of what we're going to be devoting our predictions at least to. But yeah, I hope you agree with some of my predictions. But if you don't, please do let me know if you don't, and don't slate me or anything, and don't tweet me at the end of the season saying Fulham finishing 7th is ridiculous. Well, please do actually, that'd be quite funny. But yeah, here hopefully on the screen now is a kind of a table summing up my predictions and Jake's predictions. Jake's predictions are fairly similar to mine. Nothing out of the ordinary with both of us, except Fulham, of course, for me. But yeah, please have a look, maybe do predictions for yourself as well and send them in, and maybe we'll read them out at the end of the season. But yeah, really enjoyed this opening podcast. I hope you have. Don't worry, there will be of course Jake will be back, and it'll be a bit more entertaining as such in the banter sense. Yes, I did just say the banter sense. But yeah, enjoy today. Of course, if you would like to get your opinions on our podcast, please do just check us out on Twitter or Instagram, which you can see on the screen now, and just send us in your opinions, and we'll try our best to either get your recording or get your typed opinions into our podcast. It'll be really, really fun to do that. So yeah, check us out on all those. Check us out on iTunes and Spreaker. Thank you for listening. Of course, go check out our other podcasts on our channels. Don't forget to like and subscribe and rate us. Do whatever thing you're on. Do good things. But yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed. Enjoy your footballing weekend. And of course, don't forget to be awesome. See ya.